morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dropping a little logic in honor of our extremely special guest, Sam Spratt, who is joining the show today. Very exciting day for the show. Very exciting day for me. We will hear from Sam in about 25 minutes. Very excited for him to join the show. Meanwhile, Clemente's got a new camera. Look at this guy. Nick, what do you think?
Well, now he's actually looking at it. Before, it was off to the side. He's acting like he doesn't have a microphone right there. Like he looks like he dialed in like one of those pre-show, like American Gladiator. This is one of the competitors coming up. He's about to get into a fight. Will the gladiators be able to stop him? Nobody has any idea.
The quality is really good, though. It does look like
Clemente
has like one of the better quality video cameras here.
It's the lens. So easy. If we put the lens that's on Clemente's camera, for example, on your camera, it would look the same. We'll do something about that. I think Easy's at the point where he needs a better lens.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I see who you guys have preference towards. It's fine. You New Yorkers. It's totally fine. I get it.
Yeah. But great to see Clemente rocking a new camera. Oopsie daisy. Nick, how you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I had some breakthroughs in the shower. You know,
I love to hear that. That's what we're about here. What was one breakthrough?
Well, my right nut is larger than the left one. That was one thing that was really. No, I'm just kidding. I was thinking about it was related to PAX and our platform, so I'm not going to actually share that information.
You saw Oppenheimer last night, right? About 3 weeks later than everybody else. I have not seen it. I'm drawing a line in the sand.
I walked out. They talked too much.
Did you really
walk out? So here's the deal.
They talked way too much, dude.
It was completely extended unnecessarily, and I did like the cinematography was good. Like of course, obviously, because they're trying to kind of go with the artsy style. The audio track that went alongside it was actually kind of annoying. There was this constant, in order to induce anxiety, there was always constant, like a thumping always going on throughout the entire movie. And they also added this like sort of music that was also designed to create anxiety, which was kind of infuriating because it wasn't necessary. It was just like a constant soundtrack, basically. And I understand why they did it, but it was overwhelming the senses.
It was unnecessary. I'm at a point now where I think Inception sucks because of this movie.
Interesting. So the other thing that was whack is like the second half of the movie is just like totally unnecessary, like in terms of how long they gave it. And it's not critical to the story. Like you could have cut the movie halfway in, or at least 2 hours in. You could have cut the extra hour, and it would have been just as good. Like the second half of it wasn't necessary. Outside of those who were around at the time, for whom I'm assuming this story was meaningful to them, about how essentially Oppenheimer was kind of thrown under the bus. By a colleague who was not cool amongst the scientists, who were a very cool bunch.
Yeah, so then he made a nuke.
And no. Oppenheimer didn't do it to get back at. No. I'm saying the guy. Okay, what? Oppenheimer, on the other hand, he was apparently a pimp. He was like sleeping with all sorts of ladies all the time. That was one moral of the story.
That's one thing that you really picked up on, Nick. That was one part that really stuck out to you.
Well, there were like 3 character traits, P.O. It's a movie. Like there's not depth of personality that you're getting beyond like a few key elements. One is he has an ego. He's a womanizer. These are words that Matt Damon uses to describe him during the movie. And yeah, I mean, Andy's smart, obviously, but a smart may be an understatement. You know, it was almost like a beautiful mind meets we need a constant pulsing, anxious like undertone of this movie. I feel like The Social Network did a much better job at like threading that, like creating tension without it being like in your face, like overwhelming anxiety to be like, you must feel anxious. You must feel anxious. You must like that's basically what the cadence of the other movie was.
Well, The Social Network is an elite movie because it's written by the gentleman that writes the books that they turn into movies that we interviewed on the show. What's his name,
And
Nick?
Mesrick.
Yeah, so you got a book by Mesrick. Then Sorkin takes the book, makes it a screenplay. Aaron Sorkin, absolute Hollywood legend. Then David Fincher directs the film. Then Jesse Eisenberg and a young Andrew Garfield are in the film. I'd say that's a recipe for success.
And the soundtrack is pretty legit.
Yeah, because it's just a good movie overall by really good people. You got Christopher Nolan over here making the Oppenheimer film, so you know that you're signing up for potential disappointment, like a decently high percentage chance that it's disappointing.
Who did the Social Network album?
No,
Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails.
Would you look at that? Look at that. And meanwhile, so many American movies. Well, first of all, American cinema is just in the gutter right now. But so many of these American movies are way too long. And like for him to just make this thing 3 hours is so disrespectful. And the last good long American movie
doesn't respect my time. Basically, as we were leaving, basically I was like, "Do you want to go see a movie?" And so we decided to go see a movie because apparently it's not in theaters on Friday. Like yesterday was like the last day that it was in all of the theaters. I couldn't find it in there. It was still in some theaters, but it's not in all of them. And so I couldn't book stuff on Friday. So I was like, let's just see it tonight. And then as we were going out, I'm like, man, 3 hours is quite the commitment here for the evening. Like, what the hell?
Dude, John Wick 4 was 3 hours. You asked me if I wanted to see it. I said yes. Then I looked it up. I look up the runtime now because so many of these movies are way too long.
Dude,
John Wick 4
did not need to go that long either.
Preposterous. If Oppenheimer doesn't have to be 3 hours, John Wick 4, which is him killing people in creative ways, does not have to be 3 hours. The last good movie that is long, like 2 hours and 45 minutes or more, that actually deserved to be that long is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Tarantino. But that's not a surprise because he's like, the best filmmaker ever, basically. So yeah, you're not going to really run into too much trouble with him. He's not going to disrespect
it's a shame you're not dating him. I mean, that's sort of your like dream man,
My feet aren't good enough for him. You need to have some really good feet for old Tarantino.
Actually, on that note, here's a random story. I'm on the elevator coming up to my apartment like a couple days ago, and one of the guys in the elevator is like on his phone, and he's writing a message, and then he looks to the right and he like deletes it, so the girl next to him doesn't see it. Then she proceeds off the elevator. Then he continues to write. He's like, "Hey, for those that shoot me a DM, I'll send you feet pics." this guy that was on the elevator. I was like, how like widespread is this phenomenon? Was the thing I was trying to understand. But anyways, regardless, I know your reference was to him sucking the toes of what's her name.
No, I mean, it's a well-known thing with Tarantino. Real quick, I see whenever I talk about Christopher Nolan and suggest that he's not an elite filmmaker, all the Nolan fanboys come out as if I'm talking about an NFT project that they're over-invested in. And I'm seeing it happen in the comments right now. Just get over it. The guy's heyday was Dark Knight and before. So everything after that's been garbage.
IMDb right now, which probably does seem to have a recency bias, has Oppenheimer ranked in the top 30 movies of all time.
Yeah, because they're trying to pump it because the studios are in IMDb's pocket just like they're in Rotten Tomatoes' pocket. The American cinema system is trash right now. If you want to see a good movie, watch some stuff from the UK, watch some stuff coming out of France and Asia. I mean, Korean cinema's bodying United States cinema. It's not even comparable. Go watch some Cambodian stuff, and that's what's going to really get you going. India, all these places. Serious. Bunny's laughing. Bunny, you watching these movies?
No, I think Pio's spot on. Did you see the India moon landing video? That's some top tier content, bro. It looks horribly fake. I don't know if they actually did it. They said they landed on the south side of the moon, but hey, their visual effects were busted.
Bollywood movies are good. There was a recent Bollywood movie that was like a international sensation. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Hold on one sec.
Because it's actually good. Bunny has his hand raised. Bunny, what's your? You can't smoke cigarettes in movie theaters, so I'm assuming you're not going to go.
Favorite Cambodian film?
I just saw a French-Cambodian film. I don't remember what it's called, but I saw it in theaters over here. It was actually pretty good. Definitely better than Oppenheimer.
Did you see RRR?
No, but I heard about that one, and I got to see that 100%. I'll see that. Make it 4 hours. I'll see it.
It's 3 hours, 7 minutes.
Let's go.
Dude, it's insane.
I'm sure. It's not by Christopher Nolan, so I'm sure it's good.
Yeah. Anyway.
Go see Polite Society if you want to see a good movie, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, today we're going to have a brief market check-in before we are joined by the one and only Sam Spratt to talk about the monument game and the one of one that is taking the art world by storm. This is juicy. I'm very excited to talk about this stuff. This is like I'm like a kid in the candy store for today. But anyway, let's dive into this weather report. I think Signal was having a little bit of a connection issue, but she's looking good right now. Signal, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here with you guys. GM, it is a Thursday, August the 24th. Market volume looking okay at 11 million. Blur down at 4.8. OpenSea at 2.9. Top movers for the day on the NFT side, well, the lower caps, they're not immune to what's been happening in the mid-cap lead over the last 7 days. We've still got Doodles, Moonbirds, and Clonex all down around 10 to 20% in the same time horizon, all in that 1.1 to 1.3 ETH range. We'll have to see if any of these collections actually dip below 1 ETH in the next few months. Onwards to Spotto Gremlins. We've talked about this before. The 3,000.
We lost you, Sig.
333 supply clause. And we could.
Keep going.
You going? Okay. Okay, good. Spotto Gremlins down. So yeah, they're down anyway, and we're probably going to see some more bleeding there. The winner, surprisingly, for now has been Azuki. Is they're up 7% to 3.75, and the Elemental Beans, they actually rallied 30% to a 0.7 ETH floor. Over the past 20, Joie, sorry, I got that name wrong, but a former engineer at Alameda Research, that went viral as he recorded his experience of working with Sam Bankman-Fried at FTX. He highlighted that Sam's grand vision was not only to make FTX a top crypto exchange, but also he wanted to build a vaccine factory and venture into biotech in the Bahamas. The engineer detailed the highs of traveling the world and meeting celebrities and athletes to then losing his entire life savings from the FTX crash. Onto what's happening on NFT marketplaces, and Lux token is up about 20 to 22% after their rollout of the YOLO game. This
Sig, we're
gonna cut the rest of it just because of the connection. Great weather report nonetheless. We'll get that connection cleaned up, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be better next week. Some updates from
those pipes, Pia.
Some updates from the Nifty Daily Digest, the daily newsletter that is published from the Nifty.com. If you go to the Nifty.com, make an account, you're going to need that for the free NFT claims that we have on the show and to participate in Bodagos. Solana Pay has announced an integration with e-commerce giant Shopify, offering millions of businesses a near fee-free payment option using USDC with potential support for other cryptocurrencies. I don't know if people really understand the significance of this. Not that it's some technical feat or anything like that, but it's just very nice to have a really streamlined, easy cryptocurrency integration with, I'm assuming, the biggest provider of e-commerce integration in at least the United States and probably the world. It's pretty cool, and just making it easy for people to spend something like Solana. The medium of exchange conversation comes up a lot in our space, and this is a step towards making it a reasonable medium of exchange for purchases in e-commerce purchases. It's also really easy, right? This is Solana, and other cryptocurrencies are technology products, so it's very easy to integrate them into platforms like Shopify, which is why I don't, bring up the medium of exchange conversation that much, because I just don't think it's that significant. Anyway,
well, you just spent a lot of time discussing it, though. I'll tell you that much. Seem to be a big fan there.
There you go. Tornado Cash founders Roman Storm and Roman Semenov were charged with money laundering and processing over $1 billion in illegal transactions, including funds for North Korean hackers from the Lazarus Group. If convicted, they face up to 20 years in prison. So the government cracking down on Tornado Cash, of all things. As Sam Spratt, today's guest, Monument Game, one of one, has a leading bid of 242 Ethereum. Good God. With roughly 10 hours before the end of the auction, Grant Yun teased a physical one of one coming in 2023, and Alpha Centauri Kid, ACK, shared a work in progress of a new piece that, if done correctly, will be the performance of a lifetime. Exciting to see what all of these incredibly talented artists have in store for this year and next year. Last but not least, Zach XBT, On-Chain Sleuth, reported that over $13.3 million has been stolen as a result of 54 different SIM swaps targeting individuals in the crypto space, emphasizing the importance of using an authenticator app for two-factor authentication. You should also call your phone company and ask to add another layer of security, like a PIN number on the phone company side, like your AT&T phone number or whatever. Anyway, real quick, since we're going to have Sam on in just a few minutes, I wanted to throw to Node. Node, from your perspective, what's been happening on the art side of the market? We've covered several auctions from traditional auction houses like Christie's and Sotheby's recently. What's been going on from your perspective?
Yeah, I've been fully immersed in the Monument Game over the last couple of weeks. So I honestly, it's very concentrated at the moment, right? So you have Sam Spratt has taken over the timeline, which is amazing to see. And it's also kind of wild. Like, I think there was a stat the other day that showed that Super Rare had like less than 1 ETH of volume one of the days, which was insane. Like that's nothing, right? Like basically like a single purchase was made. And then on the other hand, you have Sam Spratt, who releases the tickets to the Monument Game, and boom, there's each one of those sells for 3 ETH a pop, and over 200 of them were sold. So I think the attention is just heavily concentrated. But still, I love what a lot of the cool stuff that's happening. Like we have the Prohibition platform that Jordan Lyle's done, and he's releasing a drop with Snowfro, which is really cool. And it's the heart. I forget what it's called, but it's a heart, and it's very cheap. It's like 0.01 ETH, and they're giving away a lot of them to a lot of different communities. So if you've minted certain things on art blocks, you'll get a free mint. If you're a CryptoPunk, you'll get a free mint. But it's still a very affordable and cheap mint as well. So I recently picked up, there it is. Looks really good. And I think there's some kind of physical component here too, which is pretty neat. So aside from that, like I recently picked up the Avera Molnar themes and variations. I got one of those on bid. And then I grabbed a checks by Jack Butcher on bid a little while ago. I noticed that there was a big spread between O'Peppins and checks. So yeah, there's my themes and variations. I think it's a really cool piece. It was just a collection offer, but I like black and white, so I was stoked to pick up that piece, and I think those are going to age really nicely. So yeah, I mean, other than that, just throwing out bids, and I am now completely out of ETH. So yeah, there we go.
Just throwing it in the bag during the bottom of a bear market. What do you make of Grail Season 4 out of Proof?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because if you look past at all the previous Grails, you can't argue that any of them have been bad drops. Like lots of great artists every single time, and great art every single time. But the one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of these, that because they're a little bit convoluted, it's hard to like search for an artist in general, right? And then find their work. And so when a lot of times they get kind of hidden in the collection of Grails, I would say. So some of I own a couple pieces, maybe just one now from a previous Grails, and the liquidity just isn't there for a lot of the pieces. So it's something I was a little bit hesitant to jump in on, and I didn't because of that. So this Epiphany piece by Jack Butcher was the one kind of big winner. But I think because we're in the middle of a bear market, the prices are just getting lower and lower on a lot of these Grails as time goes on. So yeah, I thought the Jack Butcher one was interesting, right? More performance based type art. But yeah.
So, okay, so they have an Alexis Ohanian piece in this collection, so that he's the co-founder of Reddit. So it looks like they're doing interesting things. I mean, any other observations from like maybe the liquidity levels in the art market? Like, what do you pointed out that super rare situation with, only a single sale. What do you make of the landscape of platforms? Do you think that the space, the fine art side of the space from like a platform and infrastructure perspective is ripe to be disrupted a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was right, and then I had an amazing gig at Escher, and then it died, right, like a couple months later. And I think it's just the timing's hard, and a lot of these companies got funding in the bull, and then when there's no volume in the bear market, and they just are burning a ton of cash, it's hard to get it up and going. But I think it is right for disruption on, especially on the L2 side. If we can, like, this is my big gripe, is I don't know if we're ever going to move art to L2s. As much as I want that to happen, and that's the drop with Snowfro it's on Arbitrum, on Prohibition. But like the culture has not shown that we want to move off of Ethereum. And like, I just know what's going to happen is in the next bull run, everyone's going to be whining and just shouting at the heavens that, our gas fees are $200 a pop. And yet we will have still refused to move over to an L2 as like a space, just because like we like the security of Ethereum. But I do think it's right for disruption. There's a lot of cool things happening. A lot of like Prohibition I think they used Artblock's engine. So I think I don't know. At the same time, while I hope that there is, I don't know that there's. It just gets harder and harder the more platforms you have to say, okay, where am I supposed to go, right? Whereas in the beginning it was so easy, everyone just went to Artblocks, right? and there you go, like that was it. So yeah, I really don't know, but I hope we can find that like the culture moving towards L2s over time.
Yeah, I mean, look, great perspective. And we're going to throw or introduce our special guest in just a second. Nick, I noticed you thinking, or maybe there was something that you wanted to say. Anything to add real quick?
No, I just texted Note as a result of some of his comments that there's a lot of thoughts I've been having about how this like plays out. Like, I don't think the next market, or the next iteration, the next bull market looks the same necessarily as it looks today. That said, I think like a lot of the Ethereum NFTs that, especially on the art side, that continues to be viewed, like that'll continue to be viewed valuable, to have value essentially. But I think there's a lot of other places that have the ability to exist that will generate liquidity without a lot of the downsides that we see on Ethereum right now, which Note is talking about. I mean, there's basically the biggest problem that we have is that like, and why there's only 50 people that operate in this space. I'm being a little bit joking a little bit, but legitimately, like on a practical level, there's really not that many people that are active in this market. Even at the peak of the bull run, let's say you had 50, 100,000 people or something like that. Facebook has 30 billion people. Have you thought about that? More people than there are in the world. They have an insane number of people. And it's just like, if it's not accessible, which is crypto is not accessible for most people, like the friction is too high for most individuals. And your first experience is usually buy something, lose money. And as long as that happens and it's really difficult, I think that adoption is going to be challenging. I think the next wave is going to be really about adoption. And that's what the last wave kicked off with, was like
Top Shot,
Nifty Gateway and Top Shot. So like those were the two places that were like catalysts for this whole thing to go. And then suddenly like a whole portion of the market, myself included, was like, no. We need to go to Ethereum. And we go, and you're back in MetaMask being like, reminding yourself why in 2017 you didn't buy CryptoKitties, because it was just so much friction. You were like, no one's ever going to do this. Yet there we were. There I was 4 years later doing that exact same thing. So I'll bite my, or eat my own words a little bit, but The next phase, I think we see way more activity along the VV, Nifty Gateway, Top Shot, and other corollaries to that, where I think it's going to be really exciting. Art blocks on its own was actually quite high friction in the process. When those drops went down, it was a gas war, and you needed to know how to like participate in that gas war. And I actually couldn't figure it out the first couple of times because I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Like this doesn't make sense.
That was part of the process. And look, we need people to innovate. And, speaking of innovation, we are joined by a very, very special guest. This is an honor. Ladies and gentlemen, the creator of the Monument Game, the creator of Skulls of Luci, very talented artist, Sam Spratt. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Good to be here with you.
Do you have your phone? Okay, no, we're good. There was an echo for a second, but now we're good.
He's good to go, Nick. So Sam, we thought we'd lead with the Monument Game because it's definitely taken the space by storm, at least from our perspective. Can you give, maybe some people in the audience that might not have full detail, a little bit of an understanding of the Monument Game? And then obviously we want to talk about the Skulls of Luci, the history of Luci, your character, and also a little bit about your background before NFTs. But let's start with the Monument Game.
Sure. So the Monument Game, which has been running the last few days and has kind of had this rollout that, if you follow me, you've seen unfold over the last month or so. It's been in the works for about a year, and basically it centers around this one really complicated painting. It's something that I started back in July of last year, sketching, writing out the ideas, all the little tiny stories within it, how they weave together. Started sketching, laying in light and shadow, glazing in color, all of that typical process. But one of the things that I think in the process of making it, I kind of was reckoning with that I was seeing was that this thing I'd been doing for most of my life, painting, kind of felt done. Like I almost felt like no matter how complicated I make it, the thing that I'm even remotely good at in life is maybe nearing its final legs, and that I need to like see what else I can pull out of me in the process. And there's something very cool that actually I guess unfurled from the Skulls of Luci, not to get too ahead of myself, but it was when I made that, those began as gifts for people that entered the auctions of my very first pieces that I minted. And watching like stories unfold that were not designed by me, like they weren't put into the art, they were like actual human communal stories that took place on top and around it. That was like wild. That was like I had suddenly like connected myself to this network. So I thought, okay, well, if I'm making this big painting and it's all complex and it's filled with all of this like love and time that I poured myself into, but no one can actually really do anything with it but scroll past it on Twitter, or maybe see it slightly higher on like super rare or something like that. It doesn't really work. And so last year I was in Milan and I saw The Last Supper for the first time. And it's it's a painting everyone knows. It's been memed to death. It's like almost like too famous for its own good. But the way it's displayed is really special because it's basically like all on its lonesome. You walk in and you're sort of funneled into it, and you just have to sit in it. Like this is all you got. And when you're confronted with something like that, you kind of, whether you want to or not, whether you want to like let yourself care or think about something so popular and so like widespread as The Last Supper, like letting yourself care about a Christopher Nolan movie, something like that. Just there's something that it can get out of you, and I wanted to see like that curiosity that I felt. Would there be any way that I could take that, make something like worthy of observation, worthy of that curiosity and that attention, without being a world famous artist like Leonardo da Vinci? And that's got me thinking about, all right, take the painting, but then build a game around it. Take this market that we're all playing in, this thing that I've slowly been building up between my one of ones and the Skulls of Luci, that community around it, and build something for people to compete for, have an incentive structure, to a reason why they would come in, even if it's a cynical one or a speculative one. Just get them in there and make something that can link it, can do something that in person, that Last Supper experience I couldn't have without hundreds and hundreds of years of legacy. And the link for that was really create something in between what one person can collect, which is that one of one that everyone's on top of, and a viewer, someone that's just like walking through an audience, a museum goer, someone that's popping into a gallery that's just going in for free or cheap or something that is under the guise of accessibility. And then actually create something that's like a chaos variable, something like spicy in between, where you aren't the collector of that piece, but you're a collector of some piece, and you can choose the role that you want to contribute to it. And if you buy a ticket, if you collect this, if you come on in, you can leave an observation that is permanently imprinted on top of this thing that maybe only a few people could get. So it's like if you were to go and see the Last Supper, but there's 256 other people that kind of range from people who really got in there, wanted to create something themselves, pour their heart into it, leave something like profound, or maybe they're like a very literal person and they're literally treating this like Where's Waldo, and they're examining what each thing is. Or it's someone that's more of like a vandal and they just want to put a little tag, little graffiti on it, and just relinquishing control and letting that human chaos variable just stack on top of it. And so, when you spend time in the Monument Game, if you go to Nifty Gateway right now, which is the platform that I partner with, where we've been basically building a total takeover of their site over the last year, you can see this, what I've been referring to as a communal digital varnish to a digital piece of artwork, where you can kind of toggle it on and off and see what everyone is saying, as well as where they're saying it. Those each one of those observations you're seeing is contributed by the collector of that ticket. And tonight at 7:30, when the auction ends and when the observation window closes, each one of those is going to get written into the trait data and description, both the coordinates and the observations, and minted alongside the edition player. So it's an edition of 256. So you got player 1, player 2, player 3, on to player 256. And those 256 players, their edition now has like a little piece of themselves, what they each did to it. And my council, the collectors of the Skulls of Luci, they are all going to get together and they're going to deliberate on who wins this. Because I put up 3 of the Skulls of Luci, my last 3 remaining, as essentially the rewards for those who play the game well, who really go in, give it a shot, try to do something with it.
Wow. First off, wow. I have to ask, after hearing everything that went into that and the complexity of the mechanics and the way that it's captured the attention of the market, which I'm assuming was, really what it sounds like that was what your focus was, because, at the end of the day, it seems like challenged yourself to get to this point. I'd imagine, as amazing as the artwork itself is, that's kind of the easy part for you, in the sense that I'm assuming just comes out of you. How big of a challenge was it to develop everything else, all of those mechanics and the kind of the game component of the Monument Game?
Yeah, I think that was what I enjoyed most about the last year and a half. Like, it wasn't just creating Luci, this story that was my own. Like that obviously was very liberating to not work for other people, create something myself. But I think it was actually the first time in my life I ever had any understanding of like a market, like a living, breathing ecosystem of a bunch of individual contributors that are each messing with it. Like, some people are like literally messing with it. They're like doing everything they can to try to game it, short it, make something have a ripple effect to cause fear. Other people are trying to like bolster it, protect it. And I think being a part of that, I'm an idiot. I didn't collect a stock once in my life. I didn't invest in anything. I was just painting and hoarding away any cash I could find under my mattress. So having ETH for the first time was like what linked me to that. And I think just watching all of this move, observing even like the 10K collections, the side of this space that is like less what I do, but is nonetheless, I think, an integral part of why anything in the one-of-one space even exists, has been very fun, because you really get to see like all of the best and worst in human nature. And so the monument game, like within it, though it is an attempt to try to make like, I guess, a slightly different game than what I see a lot of, which is horse betting, hot potato, chicken, Russian roulette. Like, those are kind of the main tenets that I see here. It's to spin on that. Nonetheless, it's like it's a reaction to that, and so to get a huge group of people, like just on pitching this idea, have suddenly like a development team of protocol engineers, front developers, producers, people who specialize in UI and UX. The biggest challenge, honestly, was, I've been painting, like I've been a little like goblin my whole life, painting in a dark room, like looking at screens, taking any little scraps of jobs I can have along the way. And so to suddenly now be like thrust into like a leadership and management role of, oh man, I managed to get all of these people behind me. Now I actually have to not just paint, but like direct them to do something, and then also learn from them in the process, because this is like the only thing I've been doing so far. This is the first time I've had anyone kind of backing an attempt of mine, because it's the first time I've tried to, I think, connect to like a larger network. So the hardest part absolutely was taking that initial like game design, which I think was born from watching the space, but also just, I don't know, I've been playing games my whole life. So there's like some of that that's just from participating in the world, having brothers, killing each other in GoldenEye when I'm young, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much it.
I mean, it's a lot. And I think a lot of people that are really talented creatively and really great artists, they might not understand, that component of it and how much goes into it. Have you gotten a lot of interest from the traditional art world since you've started making NFT artwork? Like, we've seen obviously some artists really be favored by the traditional art world. I'm fascinated by, the NFT market versus traditional art. You come from doing some work in the music industry, and I want to talk about that a little bit later. But what has your exposure been to the traditional art world? Are you one of those artists in your mind now that the traditional art world is looking at?
I would say they've like flirted with me. I wouldn't say that I'm in there. I haven't like crossed some Rubicon into it or anything like that. But I had a really, I've had a few like very meaningful conversations with some traditional art collectors, the kind of guys with $100 million collections themselves. They've been collecting for 20, 30, in one case, 40 years. And one that had been collecting for 40 years, he came over a few months ago, and I shared with him this idea. And before I had shared with him, he was, telling me like, I need to begin talking to galleries. I need to, get a body of work, 10, 12 pieces, bring it around that, he knows some people that he thinks that like would be really into this. And like the work is very detailed. We could make it very large, very like immersive, and throwing out all these suggestions from his 40 years. And then, he came over, and, I was right here. They were just sitting over there, and I just kind of walking them through what I had been making, this monument game, before it was done. But, we had kind of like prototypes of the site and mock-ups, like when, I kind of sketched the early UI, UX of it, where all these dots might be, how these observations would pop up, and explained what I just explained to you, the like underlying philosophies of it. And he was like, don't go to a gallery. And, me being new to all this, my immediate reaction was, oh shit, like I'm doing something too like, I don't know, pop culture or mainstream, or it's like not fine art enough. And it was totally the opposite. It was, this is its own thing. Don't go back there. Keep going into this. Whatever you might find, I don't necessarily know yet, but they hadn't seen this before. And so they were curious, whatever it might look like. So that to me was like, one bit from the traditional art world I got, and then another was really actually from that collector's wife, which was, I've watched this art collection go for the last 40 years. There's always like a trend and a movement, a thing that is like the next big thing, this thing that's going to revolutionize this paradigm shift in art. It never is. The only thing that is constant that she had ever seen was there are a few artists that build worlds. They make something that is like, this is really just emblematic of a moment in time, and they've hit it and they've captured it, and they don't try to be that. It just like they're focused on their craft, they're making their thing. It's not about being a part of an ecosystem or anything like that. It's just you make it, and if you do it well enough and you speak to enough people, eventually, hopefully, if you're lucky enough, the world is kind to you enough, and you actually bother to give enough of a shit to try, sometimes it'll come your way. So I think it's this space or whatever, the traditional art world versus the digital art world. I think like there's an inevitability of it coming, but I think that it's not like these things are just going to have this seamless blending that unfurls. It's going to be, there are tenets within this technology that are so fucking cool and undeniable that they just won't be able to help themselves. Like, and you just can't do that. And for me personally, while ease, expediency, freedom to transact, all of those things are beautiful, great, they're also like kind of hard to grasp for like the average person. But I think the thing that can hit people, that they can get across, is the tenets of like preservation, where the monument game was kind of built in a way where you can do pretty much all of it without knowing anything about crypto. You don't need to be in this too much. You can even collect it with USD. You can even not really understand that when this eventually gets minted and transferred to you, that you really own and understand that you have something digitally. But over time, as that stretches out, that record, that log of the observation that was made and exactly where it was made, and this like event experience that it was a part of, that is linked to that one of one wherever it goes. I think as time stretches out, that preservation layer of a digital piece of art is going to be something that people are going to be it's going to be very easy for people to understand.
And that stuff takes time. And I almost feel as though you're saying like, it's not like any individual person can, just convert what time takes to have play out. And what you said about world building and, artists that have had success in the past and that are important artists makes me think of, I went and saw the King Pleasure exhibition here in New York. I think it's in LA now. It's the Basquiat exhibition, 200 works. And when you walk in, they take you through when he's a kid. So all the stuff at the beginning is high school and before. And the work, you see everything that eventually became his iconic artworks in that. There was no stylistic change. There was just development of his style that just came out of him, which I think is directly in line with what you're talking about. The thing that I think of with your work is I would be probably like blown away, floored to see a Luci physical artwork, like an oil painting or something on a huge canvas in a museum. Will there ever be a physical component to the world that you're building in these Luci pieces?
I think, so I started as an oil painter. I went to art school. I studied the old masters, all their techniques, and I transitioned to digital pretty quickly, not out of like a lack of love or appreciation for oils, traditional, like they hit absolutely different. They're their own thing. But I have had this like overwhelming feeling that like the museums are full of those, like the paintings have been made, and they have been made probably better than I could ever be, even though they're hundreds of years old. Right? Like when I look at like the great master painters, I'm not in their league. I don't feel that way, at least, as someone that's studied them and tried to understand, have some grasp of the technique and what went into it, especially back then when like the tools, access, resources, references to try to wrap your head around light and shadow were so different, so much more primitive. But so rather than like I don't know, I guess like I'm not nostalgic for the painting itself, but I am nostalgic or drawn to the fact that in a age of expediency, that having your hand on it, your time, your flaws, like in the attempt to like build up from sketch to finish, I think the growth process, like in doing that, is like the most fun part of being an artist. And so now that I've been doing that digitally, I did that for, I guess I'm now like 15 years in of being a quote unquote digital painter. And now the area of art that I think I'm most interested in playing with is what you can see in the Monument game. It's this layer on top of that where instead of just being this like facsimile, this imitation, this nostalgia trip for what was, it's there's actually something really special back there that we should bring forward. But in the process, there's a lot of really incredible new tools that get the art making process out of I'm a tormented solo private artist buried away. And if you put a little faith in other people, this chaos variable, like we have with these observations and players, something cool is unfurling. And though it was designed in from the beginning, I gotta say, so far, it hasn't ended yet, but so far I've been enjoying the hell out of that relinquishment of control.
I'm curious, or sorry, I wanted to ask something. I'm sure Note has questions also, but you were talking about, it seemed like he was chomping at the bit earlier. In terms of technique, you talked about like first studying the physical oil painting style and then transitioning to digital. 15 years. I don't know what you started with, like in terms of like technology that you're actually using. First, like I'm curious, what is that and how has that evolved over time? Like, are you now using, I don't want to say Procreate, but I am wondering,
No,
like,
yeah,
like
Procreate's a great example. It's like the most accessible version of it. But no, I've been using Photoshop, Corel Painter, Rebel, a bunch of different digital painting softwares, and I've been using a Wacom tablet, which is something that's been around for 20 plus years. My early ones were slightly more primitive, but to be honest, that Wacom technology, the pen technology that picks up pressure, angle, sensitivity, and you can draw on it. It'll pick up the rotation, the flick, the momentum, and all of that. That hasn't changed enormously. It's gotten like a little slicker, a little more intuitive. The screens have definitely gotten better, but the fundamental of it is really just, it's same idea as a Palm Pilot, an Apple Pencil, and Procreate.
There used to be like latency issues. Whenever I bought Wacom, there was always like, that was the thing that was hard for me to get used to. And I just never got, I just never did. Now I'm not a world-class artist like yourself, so it's incomparable, my own take on my experience with Wacom. But I am curious, like now they have like the physical ones that exist where you can actually draw on the screen. Is that what you're using now? But also, when you think about
that's what this thing right in front of me here. So I have this at kind of an angle down here, and then a monitor up here in front of me. So I will throw up things that I like if I am studying some anatomy, trying to have some grasp of musculature or pose. I'll throw up various references up here. If I'm creating a tree, I have a folder of a bunch of different kinds of trees up there. Cedars, eucalyptus, gnarled, that kind of thing. And then down here, I'll be sketching and drawing and painting.
Do you do any oil stuff anymore just to kind of keep? So how do you think, like nowadays, if you were to try and like go and set that up, do you think that you can transition like that, or do you think that the skill set, like the actual technique and your like the physical movements just doesn't translate in the same way, and that instead it's like you're going deeper down, which it sounds like you said, hey, I'm trying to go deeper down this technique. I'm trying to embrace the digital side of things, which is actually very heavily corollary to an art blocks or something, which is a different thing, which is like a programmatic execution of art. Yours is saying, well, this is the Wacom style or the digital art style. Do you think that you could, that like that's even something that can transition? Obviously, it's easier than code, but I'm wondering, do you think it's really like a completely different study?
Yeah, I think it translates to some degree. I think it's really just a matter of why do you create? Like if I mean, I think if people are starting with the idea that like your medium matters, you're losing the plot a little bit. It's like, why do I do this? Well, it's kind of what I'm best at so far. If I were capable in another way to tell this story, get out what I'm trying to say, then I would channel it through that. Like with generative art, I personally love it because, for me, there's like a purity in design. If for me, I have to spend a year trying to like get even an imitation of nature, this like somewhat literal depiction of this thing we're all looking at. But in really well executed generative art, it's already the code of the universe, right? It's there, it's nice, it's clean, you can feel it, and it's not because it's made with code or it's minimalist or it's on chain or anything like that. It's just there are these ratios that exist out there, and you can feel them in it when you look at it, even if you don't know exactly what they are. And so for me, I see it as that generative art is amazing. It's remarkable, and it's a core pillar of this moment in time in digital art. But it's also something that I think the amount of layers that you as a person have to go through to look at it and like really, really appreciate it are kind of intense and profound. And so to help in between, I think storytelling of why this space is special, what's going on here matters, requires something that is like somewhere between that cosmic, goopy, spiritual place that you can see in a Fidenza, for example, and just a painting. You need something in between there.
I love the idea there that, well, I mean, essentially it says any creative is creative expression is what, and this happens to be the medium that you happen to be great at and clearly superior at. No, did you have a question you wanted to? Oh, go ahead.
Real quick,
Yeah.
and I want to go to Node. Obviously, we brought Node here, and I'm just hogging the mic here, but I do want to ask,
Stop
and then,
it, Pia.
and then I want to get into Node's question. When I looked at Luci right from the beginning, the early pieces, the skulls of Luci, I immediately thought it was very, very original. Like the concept and the artwork was very original. And being original when you're creating art is, one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing to do. And I do think that there's a lot of, tremendously talented artists in this space. And, when you go to a gallery here in New York City or in LA or someplace that are clearly incredibly talented, but the originality maybe isn't at the level of the all-time greats, right? And when I look at Luci, I mean, I have some ideas of what you were thinking about. And I know there's a lot of people that are really fascinated, myself included, with the history of humans, the evolutionary process. I mean, my mom, she'll just watch hour and 15-minute long videos of Svante Pablo and, the stuff that he's researching, finding a fingernail in a cave. And they're like, we think that this might be a human fingernail. And look at that, it is. What is the origin of you making this? Like, when did this come about? Because when I think about what you were doing, or at least what I know of that you were doing before NFTs, it's just fascinating to me, like how something gets made. Where did this come from?
So I have, as you've kind of been touching on, 10, 12 years in commercial art. And that ranges from really, really odd jobs, things kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel of advertisement, anything I can get my hands on, album covers, like for thank you for the Logic to bring me on in. Love feeling that very earnest, optimistic thing to get your day going, feel motivated. But it started as these $20 illustrations for a tech blog when I was first getting started. Stacked it up into a few jobs for gaming and tech. Back then I was like, I mostly just sat there and watched like TV shows all day. I was a very pop culture obsessed, and so I would do like fan art of shows I liked. And I remember doing fan art for a show called Community by Dan Harmon. Not sure if you ever watched it. And the creative director for Donald Glover found it, hired me to do some art for his mixtape. Then Janelle Monáe, another artist, found me, did her album cover. Logic found me through that, did I guess eight or nine of his album covers. Kid Cudi found me through that, and I've worked on games like Red Dead 2, worked with film and television, and in the kind of the end of it, I had this client list. I was making, like, for an artist, a decent living. There was jobs I would do where I would make six figures, which for, a commercial art job, like, I could support myself. I could stack up some coin. Didn't know what to do with it at all, but I at least had the mattress to throw it under. And in the process of doing all that, I was, because of these things like the Cudi cover, those Logic covers, you get the people that consume these things, that listen to the music, and, they're not really there for me, but, they can be like, you're doing a good job. This is cool. I like what you're doing for the person that I actually am here for, the musical artist. And doing 10 years of that, and pretty much only doing it because I wanted to get money, stack up a client list, and I liked the feeling of getting my back patted by people at saying I was doing a good job. Was 10 years of me doing that kind of alone in that room, painting, and then also kind of missing the point of how to do pretty much everything else in life. I'm talking friendships, relationships, family, just dog shit at all of it. And so 4 or 5 years ago, all of that just kind of imploded all at once. And so I was looking back at this, like, portfolio of working with, like, housing apps and, like, vitamin water and whatever. And, it's like impossibly not to just be, like, grateful that, like, someone would let you into their world, no matter what it is, and actually pay you to contribute to it. And, like, you got to hone your craft in the process. So it's like, it's still a fucking gift to even have that. But to call yourself an artist and have absolutely nothing to say because you have never bothered to throw yourself in front of other people is a really, really dumb way to live life. And so the moment that was made apparent to me, I started seeing, all right, well, what the hell do I have? Do I have anything to say other than being at that stage of my life, like, a very doomer, irony poisoned, shit posting kind of guy that just, like, would look at everything in the world that was wrong, blame everything for it, and kind of retreat into that cynicism? Or is there something worth saying? And Luci is that.
Wow. Appreciate the perspective and the detail. No, do you have a question for Sam?
Most of the time I've just been nodding my head in agreement, being like, oh my gosh, there's so much that goes into this. So, I suppose the one thing I really wanted to say is, like, in the NFT space in particular, over the last couple of years, like, all we've done is the market has been ahead of the artist or ahead of the project founder, right? Where the project founder or somebody will do something, and we think like, oh my gosh, there's so much in the future, like, and we're so excited and we're going to hype this up. And we've gotten ahead of every single thing that's happened. Like, the market gets ahead of it, right? Like, we overhype things and it gets to this level that's crazy. And then it turns out that the emperor never had any clothes, like, almost every single time. PFPs in particular, I'm going to go hard at PFPs, right? And so what's been crazy to see is that, like, as this happens, right, like, Sam has been watching, has been like years ahead of the market, right? Like, he has been working on things, like the Skulls of Luci were the original example, where, like, I was just learning about what was happening right when that first piece, like, all those bids were going in, and I was like, oh, what is this? And now infinite regret for anybody that didn't bid on that piece and get a skull, of course. But it turns out that like since early, on in this journey, like Sam has built this world, and it's so refreshing to watch an artist like have thought through like months and years in advance in terms of what they're trying to build and create, and then to be ultimately rewarded for it, and not in a like forward facing way, but like that they're finally starting to appreciate what Sam has built. So as a player on the as an observer, doing my observation, all I can say is like it was one of the most intimidating experiences, because I don't know, like a lot of people outside, I've tried to explain like what I'm doing, and it is the most like, it's hilarious, right? I was talking to my therapist the other day, and I was trying to explain to him what this is, and it was so cool. Like he was like, wait a second. So you're writing like a piece of poetry essentially, and you might win this skull that makes you part of some council that you could resell if you wanted for 6 figures. I was like, yes, that's correct. And it's just like, what an amazing concept,
Is
like
Luci in the room with you? Is every time I have to every time I have to explain any of this to someone that like hasn't been through every step of it, it sounds so psychotic, so delusional, but it's so fun.
I have a question associated with that, which is, where does the collector fall into your thoughts, if at all, when you're creating something? Because ultimately, like, there's a productization of art, like that happens where it's like, hey, this is something that's really clever, creative, something that's exciting or presents joy for the person who's the participant in the process. When does that factor in to your thoughts versus some crazy idea that I have where it's like, oh, it would be cool if rather than the collector maybe being viewed as the participant? How do you view that? Like, how do you categorize and how do you like view the player basically?
Yeah, so I think this actually connects to what Node began talking about this, like the market is always in front of the thing. Actually, there's this reveal moment that there was nothing on the other side. And though I am, I guess, in the one-of-one art lane, and I know when someone like looks at Luci, they may not see it or feel it, but like I am observing everything. And so, I mean, I've watched what happened to Azuki and Captains, and you can point to exactly why, right? But then you can look at like fucking Miladies, and why is this working? Because like they have an actual ideology. Like there's something more than just like a roadmap of something. There is a vendetta. Like they have a purpose. They have to do this. And so I think for me, watching this before I contributed to it, having done 10 years of making money in ways that were not universally things that I actually felt connected to or enjoyed, but just kind of got and had, and then didn't really know what to do with or what that unlocked for me other than stuff. That what made, when I made my first steps, I slowed down and just observed. I just watched it all kind of unfurl, and thankfully had other people and their mistakes to kind of react to and learn from. And so when it comes to collectors, like the council, they get nothing. Like there is no free shit that comes with Luci. There's nothing on the other side of it. There's no like promise of what's going to be. This is literally like everything I'm telling you, that path, that career, what I'm up to now, what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to become a better artist, basically. And so if you want to bet on that, if that's your view of like how to speculate, and you can think in a way longer time scale than just a week or a month or even like a day, or in some cases, I guess, minutes, hours.
Easy's not here for this.
Yeah. then come on in, come on in. And if you do, the only thing I can really promise you is I am deeply gracious for everyone who supports me. And I personally think that creating something, like actually building something in your life is the most fun thing to do. It's like the most joyous, the best dopamine hit you're ever going to get. And so having them partake in the creation process in some way is probably the most I could give them. I said this on Space the other day, but there's this wine club that someone once told me about out in Oregon that they don't give them all like a bunch of like free perks or swag or merch or whatever. Any member of the wine club, when you are in, they let you come to the vineyard and you can crush the grapes. You can learn how it's made. You can partake in that. And that's the utility they give you. And that to me is like, that's the right path. It's because everything else is just this promise for something that you're never really going to live up to. And it's a big reason why I didn't do, like, the Monument game could have been even crazier, right? When I first started it, its initial conception was an open edition. And it was like through the act of like making it and poking at the holes in the game design to try to make it something more solid, that I realized that at that stage, under this like guise of inclusivity and accessibility and low cost, I was actually going to wildly dilute the quality of what would take place within it, have very little emotional connection or reaction to the players who actually came in and participated in it. And this, I think it's one of the like, it's all fun. It's all part of the system, the ecosystem, how it works. But like, at least whatever I want to contribute to it, I don't really feel like echoing the most demonic parts of its design.
Well, clearly a tremendous amount of thought went in, and the market is responding, in a very, very positive way. I want to throw to Signal. Signal's been patiently waiting. She's only on Twitter right now. Signal, I saw you raise your hand before. Do you have a question for Sam?
Yeah, no, Sam, I wanted to ask, I mean, everything you've said has been extremely compelling. And when I was looking at the Monument game piece, it really does remind me of some of the pieces I've seen in the Louvre where, like you were saying about the Last Supper, it's incredibly immersive when you walk into the room and it's just that single piece and you want to spend hours just looking at that piece, trying to find the individual details, and kind of never thought I would see something like that in the NFT space. But my question was, when it comes to the council, for example, how did the idea evolve from it just being, this addition that you gave to bidders to what it is now, and then integrating them into the final decision of who receives the final 3 skulls?
Yeah. Okay. So, when I first made all this, the skulls were basically, they were concepted by gratitude, right? It was, all right, I did 10 years of working for other people. I'm trying to make a world myself. This NFT space, this feels, there's something compelling in here where it's not just like, okay, sell my old art here, make something new, like start a new path within this. Anyone willing to help me. So basically anyone that bid on my first 3 pieces, each one of those unique bidders got one of these skulls. So they all began as free gifts, not airdropped. They had to claim them, like a little digital handshake. But it was like, thank you. You paid a gas fee, you entered the auction, that stacked and multiplied into each other, and then eventually landed at those final prices, which let me kind of kick off all of this. So I think beginning at that place, I got to see what like energy conversion was like. All right. So as everyone put their name on the ledger, threw themselves into the auction, and then I spent 6 months painting all the skulls, gave them back to them, and nothing really happened. But the most curious people who first started to pay attention to like the design, they got in. The first one sold for 6.9 ETH to Benny Redbeard, if you guys know him. And then it started unfurling. Then 10, 12, 19, 20, 30, 35, and the most recents have been in the 60, 70. We've got the Snowfro trade of a punk and 2 squiggles for one of the skulls. And I think watching that unfold and it slowly like kind of consolidate to not just like a higher number, but actually like really incredible people has been a very cool thing to see. But it also is like, all right, well, I got all these like smart, interesting guys who a lot of them have built something themselves. They have experience kind of creating in a different branching path of life than I have. I want to see what they're about. You know, is all of this just a transaction for you? Like, is this ultimately like, you know, I'm a shitcoin with better branding? Like, you know, what is that? And so I think bringing them on in was intended to feel that out, to see like, all right, you're an art collector now. Do you want to play? Like, do you want to see what creating something together is like? And to do that is going to be new for you, right? Because I you know, I'm not going to be making deals with you to give you more stuff. You're actually going to have to give me time and thought and energy, and you know, in choosing their player for the Monument game, like I'm going to give you something that you now have to give away to someone else, and kind of who you choose is going to be representative of like who you believe in, who you think is like a good contributor to the space. And you know, all of this is just like, I'm sitting there thinking like, I don't know if anyone will want to do this. Maybe that's not why anyone is here, but I nonetheless think it is interesting to see like if you just try to create a system that like promotes the behavior you want to see. I think the same thing that drives people to, I don't know, do all of the most short-sighted things. If you lay out that system for them, if you present something different for them, like they'll do that too. Like, I don't know, people just like having fun. There's many ways to have fun. They can be like the deep roped in private room of deliberation version of that. And they can be the wide open game of hot potato version of that. But, you know, everyone likes a different kind of game.
And it's so fascinating the way that you were basically sussing out the type of game your collectors wanted to play. I mean, Sam, this has been an incredibly insightful interview. Any closing thoughts, anything else people should know about the Monument game? It's on Nifty Gateway. Any other calls to action for people that are interested in your work? Yeah,
so two things. The first, so at 7:30 Eastern tonight, the Monument game closes. So that means everyone that bought a ticket has to leave their observation. I highly recommend, if you have collected a ticket, I understand the impulse to leave it blank, but I highly recommend you don't. And then once those observation windows close, the auction for the one-of-one closes as well. While that part of the game closes, suddenly these things that everyone has had basically a point of purchase to be able to have a ticket to leave that observation are now going to be minted and sent to all of these players. And now minted, it's in your hands and you can do with it what you want. But the observations that the council are voting on that's what I care about. Like, that's what we care about. We are after these observations. And so while deliberating between tonight and August 28th, we'll announce finalists, and August 31st, we'll announce the winners of the 3 Skulls of Luci that you got up there. The observation follows the ticket, the edition itself of player. So if you trade your edition away, you are also trading away your potential winning ticket. So in the secondary market that's about to open, if you are a curator of fine observations, let's say, you could come in and someone that did play the game, did observe that you think what they wrote is something the council is going to lift up and elevate. That's there for yours to try to collect. And this is essentially there to put everyone who has played this game also now in the position where they have to decide, like, how much do they believe in themselves? Like, how much did they get in here just to try to like collect something and flip it? Or are they playing to win? Or did they contribute something from themselves so much that they're willing to actually play a game at a much longer time scale and hold on to something while I continue to create and expand the world of Luci? So that's one thing. And two, I have heard no word of when I get to see the Knicks push-ups.
Nick, you got to do push-ups, amigo.
A couple of things on that. I wanted to spread it out across the show if there was any possibility There's no way I can. How many notifications were there?
Ladies and gentlemen, for context, if you're not familiar with this, quasi inside joke here, we promised that Nick would do one push-up for each reminder that was set on this show. Given
How
that
many
Sam,
were there?
given that Sam was
54.
Okay, well, there's no fucking way I can pull that off right now. Okay, well, let's just start. I also have a trainer coming in the afternoon, so I don't want to blow
you're
it
gonna
out
burn
here,
yourself out before the train.
254. I feel like that would be an all-time, but I'll get it started.
You can make a video later, Nick. You can make a video later.
Actually, here's what I'll do tomorrow morning on tomorrow morning's show. Although, I don't know. I got I'm testing. This is the most first world problem here I'm about to articulate. I got 2 trainers I'm testing back to back today and tomorrow. So I'm going to exhaust myself, but I want to do it in a condensed period of time.
Okay, you'll figure it out. We'll get Sam his push-ups. We're not going to leave Sam hanging on his push-ups.
Here, Sam, I'll trade you one of your pieces of art. No,
I feel like a deal has already been made, and I feel
someone
like
else made the deal
I
on
feel like
behalf of me.
I have thrown this out. Everyone gave a piece of themselves to you guys. They signed a notification.
All right, here, let's
They're
see.
like,
Let me
I'm
go.
gonna
Let me
listen
see
to
how
these
far I can
people.
go. Give me a second.
And now they're yeah, okay. Here we go.
So he's just we can't see Nick's push-ups. Wow, Nick, what a wow. This is different. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in the Monument game and the world that Sam Spratt is building, the game finishes this evening. Go to niftygateway.com to check out, the end-to-end what's happening with the Monument game and the world of Luci that Sam's building. Sam, this was such a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining. We hope we can have you on again in the future, and just best of luck with all things Monument game. It's obviously going incredibly well so far. Can't wait to see where it goes, and just really appreciate you joining us on the show today.
Dude, thank you guys
Let
for
me just
having
knock
me.
out 250 of these real quick,
Jesus.
okay?
Jesus,
All right.
Nick. Okay.
No,
Wow.
I'm not leaving until I see this. Let's go.
I can't do 250 fucking push-ups.
With the handles,
There's
too.
no way
Okay.
that's happening.
All right.
We'll start going with
Lady, oh wow, look at this. I mean, the elbows aren't tucked in, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want to see this, you have to go to the YouTube stream. But Nick is doing push-ups, and he's looking pretty big. He's got the perfect push-ups here. Sam, are these up to par?
I'm feeling this. I mean, he's got like 200 more, right? But it's pretty impressive. I'm not seeing too much slowdown.
That's 20 so far, okay?
Okay. All right, 10x.
What I wanted to do was spread this out over the course of the fucking show. And now you're giving me a 30-second period to knock this out, okay?
Sam, I mean,
How many
Nick's
do I need
face
to get to before we wrap this show, okay?
Just do a bunch. Just keep doing them. Nick's face is as red as a tomato, ladies and gentlemen, but he is looking like
quickly.
He's looking like an evolved human. Lucy would be proud. Sam, any other thoughts on Nick's push-ups?
I'm impressed by the form, the dedication. This is, I mean, everyone is leaving their existential thoughts right now on top of my painting. They are
This
giving
isn't
their
easy,
all,
I'm gonna be honest.
their poetry, their jokes, their everything. But this, I mean, this I wish we could enshrine and top it too.
I think I'm gonna stop after this next thing.
Okay, yeah, we believe you, Nick. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, we're impressed with Nick's push-up action. Mirza just commented, peak male performance right there in action. Ladies and gentlemen,
I can't do 200. I'm sorry.
well, ladies and gentlemen, Nifty, a little applause for Nick right here. Niftygateway.com is the platform for the Monument game. You can check out Sam's work there. You can check it out on Super Rare and other platforms. Another big thank you to Sam, and we can't wait to see what comes next. If it's your first time listening to the show, we do the show every day at 9 a.m., every weekday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. It's available on YouTube, Twitter Spaces, audio podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Nick?
Here's a claim. I don't know how many, what's like the world record on number of sequential push-ups?
More than you can do, buddy.
Okay, but here's the deal. World record push-ups.
10,507 held by Minoru Yoshida.
3,249. Where did you come up with 10,000?
Sam's a busy guy, Nick. We got to wrap here.
No, but I
get
just want to
time. I get
clarify.
time.
I should be able to get within 1 year to. What
I'm
the hell?
sensing a proposal. I feel like a gambit is about to be put forward.
Look,
It's 10,000.
right now I made it to 23. Okay, that was far off from the less than 1/10 or approximately 1/10 of the target. I feel like within 10 months, I need to be at least at 50%, right? Like I should be able to do 100 push-ups on the show.
Sure.
Close enough, man. Thank you.
Well,
This
ladies
is
and
all
gentlemen,
because Sam retweeted Clemente's bullshit tweet. This is complete nonsense, basically. Like, thanks a lot, Clemente. But now I'm gonna be fucking.
That's basically a
jacked. Like
blood
that's
oath.
the reality.
that's a blood oath, Nick. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, niftygateway.com is the platform for the Monument Game. Ends tonight. Big thank you to Sam. What an interview. What a session.